Yo guys, what is up? This is SlimShayee from the SlimShayee Graphics YouTube channel, here to bring you a video on MTR games of talking about a specific game character that we all know and love, which is Sonic the Hedgehog. Of course, Sonic the Hedgehog is a character that almost everybody, known of course, besides Mario, and of course, that we know these characters so well, and of course, I like to talk over today about this blue Hedgehog right here and talk to you guys about how I experienced playing these games as a kid and became a fan as I know of today. And of course, a lot of questions are revolved around newer games and such, but we're going to be going over back from the past all the way to where we are now about Sonic. So anyways, let us get started. Of course, as a kid, most of you guys probably played Sonic 2 on the Sega Genesis. Someone such as myself haven't really played it on there at the time because I grown up in the age of the early 2000s. I was born in 1999, so of course I was grown up with the Sega Dreamcast, and of course I was grown up with the GameCube. The GameCube was the first console I played with Sonic, so I played the Sonic Sega Mega Collection, I believe it was called, and on the Mega Collection, you've seen that all the original Sonic titles were on there, and of course the first game that I played was Sonic. On Sonic itself, when I first played it, I believe it did have the spin dash, but playing this game itself was very fun to play, of course on Green Hill Zone with its awesome music, and the sound effects for the game was awesome. It brings out a really big nostalgic feel factor to it, and I think it's something that nobody can really forget when it comes to gaming itself, especially with Sonic. So throughout Green Hill Zone, of course, the first 3 levels are really fun to play and everything. Of course, the only thing I don't like is in the second part, I believe, the second level, you get bounced back by the red spring, which is just a big pain in the freaking neck. You just gotta love that. So, of course, after that, of course, you just do a lot more of the running and everything like that. I really love the hill inclines when it comes to the Sonic games, because there wasn't really too many hill inclines and all that stuff in the Sega Genesis games, so this was something that was really awesome to see. And of course it was really great for Sonic building momentum and gaining speed, even though in Sonic 1 Sonic didn't have that much speed compared to the second and third game. So of course, just out of all, as a main review for Sonic 1, I wasn't really a big fan of the boss battles. A lot of them were very generic and easy. Even as a kid, I was able to beat them very fine and easily, of course. And I was like around around 4 or 5, around that time, and I was able to beat those levels very easily. So I think it was just, a really good game for like maybe beginner or novice players, especially for kids that are getting into video games and stuff. But out of all, it's just a great Sonic game just to start out with. It's just a really nostalgic game, but it definitely did need a lot of improvements out of all. So of course, Sonic 2, the game that most people probably started out with on the Sega Genesis, and Sega really owned up to the blast processing on this. And I believe it was just mostly because of the unit itself. The Sega Genesis was able to really pull out pixels really quickly. I think that's kind of how they were trying to say it. But I do know it was just blast processing that really got the kids into buying the system. And of course with the whole Nintendo campaign, and of course showing off Sonic, and he looked better than ever with a new sprite animations, and basically everything was really, refined in a way. So of course in Sonic 2 you had the spin dash, which was a humongous factor and really helped you get through the levels pretty quickly in the game. Of course helping you out too when you're kind of stuck in some spots with the hills and everything, when you have to go up an incline or anything like that. The boss battles were a little bit better in this game. Of course, I always think all the Sonic original Sonic boss battles are very original. The ones that we mostly see in the future Sonic games aren't really as original as they were in the past, in my opinion. That's something that I just say, just because they like to reuse a lot of them. And playing Sonic 2, a couple other things I really love about it is just seeing how you can become Super Sonic for the first time and take down Eggman and a ginormous egg robot on the Death Egg, which I believe is what it was called. But other than that, it's just a really awesome ending, and how you can get multiple endings in that game. Of course, with Sonic 1 as well, you can get multiple endings, but nobody really bothered to do it because you don't really get much of anything out of it. Moving on to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, this probably was my favorite Sonic game out of all, mostly because of all the additions in the game, and of course how much they tried to add to the game compared to the other two previous games. So in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, of course it starts out as Sonic 3, but with the Sonic and Knuckles add-on, you're able to get Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where you can play as Sonic and Tails, Sonic, and Knuckles. That'd be kind of cool if you could play as like Knuckles and Tails, similar to Sonic Mania, but we'll talk about that later. So when you choose a certain character, you can try to get all the Hyper Emeralds and the Chaos Emeralds to become Hyper. So you can become Hyper Sonic, where you're Rainbow, and you probably can get a seizure looking at him if you really took a long look at him. And if you wanted to become Tails or Knuckles in Hyper mode, you can become Hyper Knuckles or Hyper Tails. Most people just say Super, but I don't know, it doesn't really matter too much. I just call them Hyper Knuckles, Hyper Tails. And basically they just glow up in a white color, and they're a little bit brighter, I think. I'm not really too sure. But they usually glow in a lighter color to symbolize that they're in their Hyper form. And of course in their Hyper forms they're able to run extremely quick, and they're able to blast through the sky if you really wanted to. The Sonic and Knuckles add-on, it was really cool, especially with the Sonic 3 and Knuckles game, because of course in Sonic 3 and Knuckles you're able to get all those additions and all new levels from the Sonic and Knuckles game. So you have all them together, and of course with all them together you're able to complete Sonic 3 fully, to where you can have very fun boss battles and everything like that, and it's really intense out of all, especially when you're going up against Eggman when he has the Emerald itself that holds up Angel Island. And of course Knuckles thinks that you are on the enemy side, but of course near the end he understands you're on his team, and then that's basically where you go off to take down Eggman on the Death Egg, and then of course go through the portion where you're Hypersonic, going through space and trying to get Eggman and then get the Emerald to put it back on Angel Island. And of course Knuckles is then your friend, which is really awesome. And I do like how in many cartoon shows and comics they try to symbolize this event, because it was very important and it was a very big symbolic moment in the Sonic storyline. The add-on for Sonic 3 and Knuckles, however, didn't really go on too far, because there was a lot of add-ons for many other, well, they were planning to do many other add-ons for other Sega Genesis games, but it just didn't really continue as far. But it sounded really cool at first, because you've seen how you can plug in Sonic and Knuckles into Sonic 2 and play, Sonic 2 and Knuckles or something like that. And you can just go off playing as Knuckles if you really wish to.
Sonic game ever. It also comes with lock-on technology. Plug in Sonic 2 and use Knuckles to play in a whole new way. Plug in Sonic 3 for 34 megs of power, new worlds, and surprise endings. Sonic and Knuckles with lock-on technology, only on Sega Genesis. Sonic and Knuckles, other game cartridges, and Sega Genesis, each sold separately.
The last Sonic game that I do want to talk about here is Sonic Spinball. Sonic Spinball is probably one of the big Sonic games I've played on the Sonic Mega Collection. There wasn't really any other Sonic games that I played too much from the franchise. I never got to play Knuckles Chaotix or anything like that. I did play a little bit of Sonic R on the Gems Collection, I believe, but that game was kind of crap on the most part, but it was pretty fun playing as Super Sonic. So on Sonic Spinball, when you first play the game, I believe this game is definitely difficult for kids, because a lot of kids don't really understand Sonic Spinball and what you're supposed to do. Most kids just believe you just have to get a high score, but in reality, you have to get to the top of the mountain, and of course, when you have to go through space and beat up Eggman once more. And I find it so cool on how you see Robotnik with that, big face, just dramatic face, when you're trying to take him down on the final level, basically, in Sonic Spinball. I think the game was pretty cool out of all, and I really like the music and everything. It really went along well. I kind of wish the physics was a little bit better on the most part, but out of all, I think it was just great as, just a regular spinball game, or pinball game, as we would say in this case. The next thing I do want to talk about here, this is before we really get into Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 and everything like that, before we get into the 3D games, because we mostly discussed almost all the primaries when it came to 2D Sonic games. Of course, we had other games as well for Sonic, but those four games really caught my eye as a kid, and I think it happened to most people as well when it came to Sonic. So the Sonic comics, As you can see, I have many of the Sonic comics. I have the very first one, which was really awesome. I love that so freaking much. It was probably, you know what I mean, a big present I got for my birthday, which I was very, very, very happy about. As you can see, though, I got other comics right here from the original Archie comics of Sonic. And you just see, like, there's freaking Bad Sonic, known as Scourge. Most people know him. That's actually how he started out, and then later in the Archie comics, that's when Scourge becomes who he is. You also can play as Scourge in some Sonic ROM hacks, which we'll talk about later in the video. So as you can see, there's other things as well, like Sonic freaking dying, like, holy freaking crap. And then there's this other comic with Eggman and Sonic trapped in a sphere by this big robotic guy. And of course, you can see all these comic cover art on the Sonic Mega Collection, which really big, holds a big impact on you. They're like, wow, Sonic has went through like a lot of tragic events. I really want to see what Sonic is going through. I want to see the comic and everything like that. And that's basically what I've been trying to pursue and trying to get these comics. I do like reading them online, but I find just collecting them is just very fun to do, especially when it comes to collecting cartridges and old retro video games. So as you can see, through these comics, they look really cool. And of course, there was different artists over time when it came to the comics itself. Some people have videos showing off like every single artist that has drawn Sonic for the comics and everything like that. It was really cool. Of course, they expanded out into other comics where Sonic, such as Knuckles, they expanded out to, and I believe Tails as well. As you can see right here, we have the archives right here. Just a whole bunch of other Sonic comics, and I believe a lot of these were recreations of the Archie comics or just brand new ones in general. I can't fully remember, but when I seen these in stores, I picked them up right away, and I got them for like $5. There is the other Sonic Archie comics right here. They're not really as great. They're more like advertisements, and there's a lot of promotions in these comics, which I didn't really like too much. I like the old style Archie comics just because it was going straight to the point and everything like that. There wasn't a whole bunch of stuff, you know what I mean, on the next page about advertisements and all that stuff. It was very annoying, and I feel like they brought in a little bit too many characters by the point in time when they got that far into the Archie Sonic storyline. So out of all, when it comes to Sonic and the comics themselves, I find it really awesome, the ones in the past, because they really brought a lot of story into Sonic itself and really showed you what he is about, especially the origin story of when he was called Sonny. And of course, the guy that was named Dr. Kimbonitor, some name like that. And he basically, made Sonic who he is, and he became Eggman by getting like fused with an egg or something like that. Not really too sure. You probably can read up about that. So you know what I mean? It's really cool seeing a lot of the backstories with Sonic and seeing what he has went through. So I find that really awesome out of all. So now to go on to the Sonic 3D games, starting off with Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. We know Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 were really awesome games that most people find, amazing. I played these games themselves, and I really thought they were amazing too. Most people go back to the game today and say how they were kind of poorly made at the time, in which going back to the games, I can totally agree. But of course, as a kid, most games you play, you don't really think of, is it going to be a good game, is it going to be a sucky game? No. The first thing that you usually have in mind is what immersion you're going to get out of it, basically. Like, what story is going to come out of it. You know what I mean? Most kids are really interested with the story, and that's what I was really interested in. And of course, after playing Sonic Adventure 2, that's when I got deeply into wanting to get into the Sonic storyline, which got me into the comics, and got me into playing Sonic Adventure 1 again to fully understand what they were trying to say in the story. Because as most kids, most people don't understand when you're trying to, when you're picking up on a story. Most kids kind of just hear and just, play the game as usual. They don't really know what the story is really about until they are older and look back through it. So Sonic Adventure 1, the game itself, I believe, is really fantastic if whenever you play as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. I also like playing as Gamma a little bit, but I find his story very short. I kind of wish it was a little bit longer, and I wish they added something, just that little something, to make it a little bit more unique. But of course, nobody liked Amy, nobody liked Big the Cat. They were kind of assholes. They were just people that just stood by and became those characters just to, add extra slots in, basically. Of course, adding in Metal Sonic was really awesome when you got all the emblems, but they're very hard to get all. And I'm actually trying to get them all right now, which is very difficult. I have to find a way maybe to get a save file or something, which is what I did with Sonic Adventure 2, which I'll talk about in a bit. Of course, when you play Sonic Adventure 1, when you play as Sonic, of course you're going to be going through all those speed and action stages. Stages are very fun to play, except for the one temple level. I did not like that at all because it involved in a lot of the platforming, which is what we see in the old Sonic games, such as Sonic 1. That's where you mostly see it, such as in Sonic 2 and 3. There's a little bit more speed action going on, which is what Spin Dash was for on that part. So in Sonic Adventure 1, playing as Tails, of course you're going to be racing Sonic a lot of the time. And it was very fun playing the boss fight at the very end when going against Eggman, not Robotnik anymore, Eggman. And when playing as Knuckles, you go out finding the Chaos Emeralds. And I kind of enjoyed doing that a lot. It was actually pretty fun scavenging out and trying to find the Emerald, basically, to try to bring the island back up, because it was broken before by Chaos, which is what we all know as the main villain in the game, along with Eggman, of course. So when you play the game as Big and Amy, basically Amy, you're running away from a robot. Big is just trying to catch his dumb freaking fish that nobody likes whatsoever, that barely has any relevance to the story other than having a Chaos Emerald inside the freaking frog. And then going to Gamma, where it was actually more of a story involved with him, where he was trying to basically get on the ship with Eggman, and of course he had to fight his brother, quote unquote. And once he actually fought him and won, he was able to get on the ship. Once he got on the ship, he and a few other robots had to go capture the frog. When they went to go capture the frog, of course, Gamma was the one that got it, and when he brought the frog back to Eggman, he basically got rid of the other robots, completely got rid of them, didn't want any need of them, and they were basically just gone. And then from there, Gamma went to check out his brother, slash, Beta, quote-unquote brother. He went in there and seen he was being experimented on, I guess to become a much bigger threat, and to become a lot better than Gamma. So then, after Gamma was done fighting Sonic and everything like that, he went to get off of the ship when it was starting to explode and everything like that from Sonic's story, if you ever played that. And then from there, he basically wanted to save his quote-unquote brothers, and by doing that, he meant kill them. I know, it sounds great, right? So he went to go off and kill all of his brothers and everything like that, and then he went to go kill Beta. And then, of course, there was birds that came out of him, which was related to Amy's story, which is when she had the bird that had the Chaos Emerald as well. And, of course, it was a big happy birthday. So then, out of all, just stating, the Supersonic level was amazing and a good way to end it off, and the music was really awesome along with that as well. And Sonic, if I was to actually rate it on a true scale, I believe it was around like a 7, just because of the nostalgic factor and what kind of immersion it brought me into how Sonic is in a 3D spectrum and just running around and being Sonic. Of course, he's not like as quick as you think he would be watching shows and such from the old Sonic cartoons and such, which are really awesome, which I'll definitely get into at some point in time. Of course, not in this video today. Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2 was definitely a big uproar when it came to a lot of the story involved. And of course, this story involved a lot with Shadow and Eggman trying to basically take over the world by getting the big, ginormous Death Egg in this case, and just exploding the moon, and then, telling everybody that they're going to rule and all that stuff and try to make the world explode, or something, I don't know, something around there basically is what they were trying to do. And of course, while the world was trying to explode, Shadow and I just said Tom. What the freak? Shadow and Sonic basically teamed up together to fight the big bio lizard that was hanging on the freaking edge of the egg. Planet Egg. Death Egg. Something like that. So that game itself, just to give as a quick review, it was an alright game as well. Of course, the game definitely would like to have some improvements in there. But playing a lot more of the Sonic stages, and there was a lot more of the Shadow stages, which were basically both speed levels, which were all fun to play. They were really great. I didn't like the Tails or Eggman levels, just because you had to just shoot crap the whole time. It was trying to be similar to Gamma. I think the levels that Gamma was in back in Sonic Adventure 1 was a little bit better, just because it was all in one story and it was an easy character to use, when Tails and Robotnik, or slash Eggman, just really didn't feel as great, and they didn't really feel right out of all. But the game itself, I loved the story, and I loved how Sonic and Shadow became super at the very end, which made the game just freaking fantastic. Alright, so going on to the next thing right here, it's basically the bad Sonic games. We're not going to talk about them too much just because we're trying to look on the good sides of Sonic here, but right away when you think of bad Sonic games, we think of most of the games coming from the newer realm, which is of course Sonic Boom. Nobody liked that game. It was pretty crap. There was a lot of error, well, a lot of trouble with that game and a lot of glitches. There was also Sonic 06. We don't talk about that at all whatsoever. Just don't talk about it. And of course we have other Sonic games as well on the Wii that were just not really as great as well. But there was a couple okay games, which were Sonic Colors and Sonic Unleashed, where you became the Werehog, which was freaking cool. Gotta love being a Werehog, yo. Just that it was kind of weird how his arms stretched out. It's pretty funky. So of course, going on to the newer games now, which is of course Sonic Mania. Sonic Mania was the game that so many people were excited for to play, because most people thought it as the true Sonic 4. We all know how Sonic 4, the literal Sonic 4 was, which was pretty crappy. And of course we have to deal with Sonic 4 being Sonic 4. Sonic Mania is not Sonic 4, which kind of sucks. I kind of wish that it was declared as the real Sonic 4. But what's great about Sonic Mania is that it was the basically prequel to Sonic Forces, where you see the Phantom Ruby, I believe it is called, at the very end. Of course, like Sonic grabs it at the very end when he's Supersonic, and he just basically takes that away and then goes directly into the Sonic Forces game, where you just see classic Sonic pop up in the trailer, which is really cool. A lot of people made videos on that stuff, which I think is really cool, on just seeing how Sonic got from Mania into Forces. The game of Sonic Mania itself was, in my opinion, spectacular. This game, as you can see, has a lot of great level design, and it was made by fans. The game was made by fans, so fans knew what was needed and what was wanted and what people really enjoyed, and including the spin dash as well along with that, and including the drop dash as well, to add both of them in together, brought in a lot of speed, a lot of momentum, and a lot of cool speed moments, which made the game feel a lot like Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 put together, and along with a lot of old levels coming back, but with a lot of remixes to it. So when you play a lot of the old levels, it's basically Act 1 and 2 put together, and then the next act is something completely new, and of course you go against very unique and original boss battles, especially when you play the Mean Bean Machine. I believe that's what it's called, Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, coming from an older Sonic game, which was very fun. So of course Sonic Mania, out of all, I believe it was just a fantastic game. I don't really have any complaints about it at all whatsoever, other than I wish there was Hypersonic. God dang it! But it's okay, we're just gonna pretend that, you know what I mean? We're just gonna pretend nothing like that. Nothing like that will ever happen. We're just gonna go off and go see if there's any mods for Sonic Mania, which is very cool, by the way. So of course, speaking about mods, what we were just saying for Sonic Mania, there is mods that you can download for Sonic Mania right now, and I believe you have to be on an older update. I haven't checked into it for a very long time, but the one thing I do want to talk about is Sonic ROM hacks. Sonic ROM hacks has definitely gone undercover, and not many people have know about this. Most people just, just recently heard about it, and of course there is a Sonic hacking contest coming up, and it actually already is up right now. It's called the SHC 2017, and of course many of Sonic YouTubers are going over these games and playing them right now, such as Red Hot Sonic and many more guys. I mostly just watch Red Hot Sonic just because he's really cool to watch, especially Xenon and Razor, I believe, or Razor and Xenon. They're really cool too. They speak Russian, so you don't really understand them usually in their streams or whatever, but they have regular gameplays up, which are very fun to watch as well. And seeing how they play really well in most of these games. I think it's because they play a lot of the game just to have a really good gameplay for everybody to watch. So definitely go check them out, and definitely go check out Sonic ROM hacks when you can. On my website, you can go download them all right now on the one package, just because you can download them quickly. And of course, I don't take credit for any of the games at all, that is if I made one. But that's basically about it when it comes to Sonic ROM hacks. I really like them a lot, and they definitely add a lot more playability to all the Sonic games where you can play Shadow, Silver, and etc. Speaking about the last thing with Sonic is Sonic Forces. Sonic Forces we all know as a game that was kind of mediocre, a game that didn't live up to expectations. We all thought it was going to be great because of the darker theme, and really out of all, it's just an average Sonic game. It wasn't bad and it wasn't good at the same time. The story could be a lot better. I really liked it though, how like Robotnik was already taken over and then you try to take it back, similar to like a war in a sense, and I really like that kind of thing that they were doing. And of course the custom character was okay. They could have added a little bit more better editing with the characters and everything like that, but out of all, it just wasn't really too great in a sense of the whole game. And I believe if they took a little bit more time into it, I believe the game would have been excellent. Same thing with Sonic R in the far back past. Back to the past, we all know that Sonic R was a terrible game, and I wish that game was really good too and a lot more effort was put into it, because that game would have been excellent, especially since it was just a game where you were racing on your feet and it wasn't anything in go-karts or anything like that, such as Sonic Drift 1 and 2. We don't speak about those, but they were okay as well. It's all good.
So as you guys can clearly tell, Sonic has had a lot of rough times throughout the past, and of course right now, and he also had his great times as a character when it came to a lot of his great games, such as what we know with the Sonic Adventure series, and many, many more, along with the old Sonic games. So what is your opinions on Sonic? I would really like to know, because this video game character holds a big place in my heart as a whole, and I hope he does with you gamers as well. He's just a really cool character out of all. So this is SlimShayee from SlimShayee Graphics on the YouTube channel. Feel free to go support me on that YouTube channel, I highly appreciate it. And of course, make sure you support MTR and MTR Games. If you guys want to see more content like this, always comment on all three of the channels, and we will definitely make sure to provide you guys with more content. So anyways, thank you guys, and hope you all have a great one. This is SlimShayee from SlimShayee Graphics. Sonic and Shane out.